because there are some projects that when they did do the analysis of the campus, that he could already, you know, handle some of the smaller projects. Obviously, we don't want him to come in and start building an addition out or something. Obviously, don't have the staff or the expertise for that. But he has been able to identify some projects that he could do in-house. I think that's admirable that he's looking at that, but we also don't want to take his team thin on the other duties that they are responsible for. So we're trying to find a way that we can get the most accomplished. Go ahead,
I
Richard.
think one thing people need to recognize too is, I think 3 of the municipalities, and the gentleman said the assessed value is like 190,000 or something. And three of the municipalities are probably under 70%. So their assessed values when they revale is gonna go up 30, 40%. Prairieville is one of them, we're one of them, and I think Lycena Township is one. So that's gonna change the perspective a little bit. We'll change the dollars, well, that ratio has to change, and then the mill rate has to be changed.
Mhm.
So that will affect somewhat, I know that, but
So that's the town of Lycena, the town of Marcellin, and
Village of Hardyville.
Village of
And
Hardyville.
Lycena, the town of Lycena, right now is going through a revale. We're going through one next year.
I think,
And that was after, it was also, I appreciate that perspective too, because it's also just after a 24% increase last time was assessed a few years previously also. So, I mean, I'm on the same
I
page.
can't hear you.
I'm agreeing with you and saying that was, you're right, it's even after another 24% increase on the last one before that. So I appreciate the context that you're sharing as well, and I'm on the same page as you. We have had significant 2 or 3 bumps in very recent memory.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that would easily put the assessed value probably in the 250, 270 average.
I'd say 215, 220.
Taxes are based on not assessed value, though it's equalized value.
Correct. Yep. But trying to put
Yep,
it in
no,
layman's terms
absolutely.
and in perspective, yes,
Yeah,
it's not
reassessment
true
is
apples to
good.
apples,
Yeah.
yes.
other comments, questions?
Becky, not to interject, but I do think
No,
it
go
would be
ahead.
helpful for you all as a board to come back to these 2 bullet points on the screen. Again, in many ways, it's helpful for us to understand, probably more helpful for Erica and team to understand related to things. If you as a board want to continue to pursue a operational question, but as a combined team, both for estimating purposes and for design purposes, it would be helpful to understand if you are still interested in exploring a facilities question. Again, we don't need to define the dollar amount this evening. We don't need to define the exact scope. We know that more detailed conversations are needed to sort that out, but I don't think it's a vote necessarily either, but if we could get some consensus from the group this evening, that would be helpful for us.
Okay, what is the board thinking here then? What about the operating referendum? Obviously, we're not voting,
No,
but we're just looking for kind of a consensus of how do we move forward. I do look at the meeting, December 2nd, to continue, obviously, more discussion, more information that we would have for us, but how are we leading this evening?
I think it was promising feedback that the community sees that there's a need for operational.
Yeah, I mean, I think they know that.
Right.
Maybe if the operational was in question.
Okay, the operational, we did see a 58.4%, correct?
Yep.
That's what the number I wrote down, so we are in the acceptable range, plus or minus 4%.
It's been part of it for a long time. They know that we have to have extra money to
Keep
run
the
the
lights
school.
on and running.
So I don't think that's a.
Okay, is that what I'm hearing? I'm seeing a couple of heads nod here. Okay, then, I'm gonna bring that slide back up, I did write it down. Should we continue exploring a facility referendum for April? What are the thoughts there? One thing I do know that we will be, meeting here, tomorrow to just start prioritizing and looking at some. I will be meeting with the core team, the admin team will be present just to try to start that conversation for prioritizing needs.
It's a good reminder, Becky, right, tomorrow's conversation with district admin. Also, we do have a conversation scheduled next week as well,
Correct.
where we could continue dialogue with the admin team if the board directed us as the consultant team to continue those dialogues.
And I mean, just interject my 2 cents. I really think we need to find or look at a way to fold in the pieces that are of a significant value and bang for our buck. And I really feel like that's the cafeteria and the CTE space.
I
I
agree.
mean, I really feel like if we can provide that value or that return on investment, I mean, that at least we can say we tried and we can try to work with the community because it is a significant investment. And I think that we're doing our due diligence in the community and everyone is doing our due diligence, but I really think those are important parts.
Can you clarify, when you say CTE, are you also including ag and culinary?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
I just
yep.
wanted to make sure we clarified that.
Yeah, CTE is career and technical education, and it's encompassing of agri-science. I mean, we have a good shop facility and space that doesn't need improvement, yes, but I think we need practicality and utilitarian space, and the current is good enough at times, but we can do better.
We also
Would-
have to
And
think
those are-
about safety,
And safety.
and that to me is a priority, at the elementary.
Safety of the
It's
elementary.
the safe vestibule, it's called in the elementary. That was part of the base plan.
Okay, anything else?
I'll ask a question for me and maybe I'll have somebody else here too. How much of what we're calling the a la carte, add-on projects are actually really dependent on the base project? Like you couldn't just plug those in, you need that base structure. Like how intertwined are those?
That's dependent on the individual sub-projects.
Sure.
Right, that you bring up. I think in many ways, as we explore, trying to think of a good example, the additional elementary classroom, right, so, 3 classrooms versus 2 classrooms as part of the addition. That very much needs the base addition
Right.
to add on the
Sure.
additional room. I think there are other elements, like at the middle school, if the middle school office were to be relocated, what's backfilling the existing office space? I think Becky, you talked about specifically the combined middle school, high school cafeteria and those dominoes of existing kitchen versus relocated kitchen. Kitchen needs to move so ag could backfill, but then what backfills the existing cafeteria space? I think that was one of the items that made that more complex in some ways. And we can work to untangle that as much as it can be untangled, but that is a project that I think the quantity of renovation that was explored as part of the combined middle school, high school cafeteria means in an existing building there are more domino impacts and then renovated spaces that we were impacting. So we're happy to provide more information, but I think it is very sub-project dependent, some more independent than others, but all tied together in smaller ways because we're dealing with existing buildings, not solely new construction that way as well.
And I was also hoping the elimination of Bailey that happened.
And that was on the survey. Yeah, the Bailey, it was on the survey. As we had explored costs with that, and I'm not gonna quote any numbers right now because I don't have that in front of me, but when we looked at the cost to continue annually using that facility was quite high. And so we also looked at the safety factor, with that, as Carla is saying, with having this open space that students are moving back and forth. It just was not conducive to a real solid safety plan that we have, but utilizing better space than what's provided there currently.
Maybe one small thing to add, Becky, because you talked about operating the existing Valiant building and right, that it's separated from the school, but also considering the infrastructure items, right, kind of larger building ticket items for the existing structure, the existing Valiant building. Sure, we could replace things, sure, we can update it, but we're still updating a, less than stellar, less than average space, looking at, other spaces within the municipal.
Okay, so what are, oh, I'm sorry, Chad, or Paul, excuse me.
It strikes me that we have all of the pieces that we need. I mean, the comments that have been made so far, I think are true. We've had, through the community input process, we've identified what the community's hot buttons are and priorities are. We're also seeing it coming back in our survey. And I think, Becky, you hit the nail on the head. This starts our work to be done. So this is the stage at which we start to talk with our parent voters, our staff voters, and we start to evangelize among senior citizens. Partly, I think what we need to do or should do is maybe a little bit more number education. And to Richard's question, if we're using a $220,000 median assessed value, the total tax bump goes to $625. That's the increase. If we go to 10% less on our capital projects, that number drops from 625 to 583. I don't know about y'all, but that strikes me as a pretty small decrease. If we drop to 80% of the anticipated capital increase, we then drop down to 541. So it doesn't strike me that we've gotten the feedback that we need to drop our price tag down by 20%. That's a very small tax difference.
And a good point that you made there, I think this is something, again, as a board, we'll have to really look at, and before we move forward with anything. So I'm gonna ask the question again. Do you wanna continue exploring the facilities referendum? We have a lot of work ahead of us, but that doesn't scare me at all. We will, get some information here together. One more point that I look at is when we looked at both of the graphs that you had on that survey, that undecided 11 to 13%, there's a huge educational component on us, that how can we take that and spin it? We know that in the past, there's people that they're gonna vote no matter what. Whatever we put out there, that's fine, I respect their opinion on that. But whatever we say, we're not gonna change that. But it's the other group of people that we really ought to educate and try to change that undecided and get that to come on board with us. I think that's on all of us here at this table, that table, within the community also.
And I think it kind of leans in undecided. I think it's, I'm hoping that it's kind of a way to be verified.
I think it is. I think if they wanted more information, even though it didn't show it on the graph, I think they still wanted a little bit more detail.
I can actually speak.
Yeah,
Based on the November outcomes of what we had tested in the spring and summer, we actually found on operational referendums, undecideds almost entirely broke no. So you don't want to rely on that. With the capital projects, there were a few percentage points that would break. Yes, it's not a huge amount, a substantial amount, but I think there absolutely are people out there who just want more information before
Right.
committing.
Okay, so what are the feelings here of the group? Should we continue on with exploring and come back with, I look at December 2nd as come back with more information and as a board really make more of a decision. Tonight to rush, this is me personally, to rush into something tonight and say, okay, let's go with it, let's go with 22 million or whatever. I really think as a board, this information was just given to us. I know I had seen it on Friday, but even over the weekend, I've been kind of going back and forth in my mind as to, what direction we should go. But I think to be fair to the rest of the board, give us some time to consider this further. With that said, what is the,
I'm okay with continued discussion.
okay, Brett, what about you?
I think it can be continued. I think that the elementary school is built independently and the high school is built independently, but the middle school was an add-on, so it doesn't have its own cafeteria, and we've kind of been not following, it's tricky to follow the state code in gym about running water and stuff like that. So you could tie in the valley at the middle school is the biggest thing that needs to be corrected as far as, because the middle school is never its own standalone building. It was, people are walking into the high school back and forth. And if that was wrapped up, they would all be in their own standalone building instead of trafficking different age students around the school. It's just my thoughts on it.
Okay, so you wanna keep exploring?
Could look at it, yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a long ways from ready.
Okay, yeah, well, I don't know about you, I know you've only been at your fourth meeting.
I think we have a responsibility to continue the conversation.
Okay. Carla?
Yeah, I'm willing to, I think we have some tough decisions to make.
Okay, what about this end of the table? Thumbs up, then Chad, what are you, thumbs up? I'm a thumbs up. Okay, we will then continue, exploring, and, we'll have our homework in front of us here pretty soon. Thank you very much for those that have attended the meeting tonight and your comments, your commentary, it's much appreciated. Thank you for the three of you being here tonight and answering questions and being part of the dialogue. You know, it would be a different scenario tonight if everything was voted no.
Right.
And so I feel hopeful, I think we have support here in the community, I think it's positive. We just have to figure out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. And, yeah, we move ahead. It's the way our district always has operated. We've always thought of the positives, and we're here, our number one reason is here for the students.